blast wide open, woke sessions. Mind, body, soul, no second guessing. Smelling fruits, no sugar coat dressing. Wisdom, honey, and knowledge, blessing. Wide open the road, eyes on the prize. Ain't no time for jokes, rise and high. These chains we walk, you follow the money, destiny and fall. Into the streets, wide open road, eyes on the prize. Ain't no time for jokes, rise and high. These chains we walk, you follow the money, destiny and fall.
Hey. This is Audi Rob with Wide Open Road Podcast. Podcast to make you want to say wow with all this information that we got coming at you. Yeah, we can bring you a lot of light love and peace and energy and all that good high vibration frequency that you gotta have. Get ready for this new earth. You don't know, y'all know this new earth is coming? It's kind of here. Y'all feel that new energy, that energy that's going about for all the spiritual people out there. I know you feel it. But today we got a very important guest, Billy Carson, who was on the Inspired Evolution. That's he was giving an interview, and he had some very good information. You guys will find his information very enlightening. If you know about Billy Carson, he has the Forbidden Knowledge Network. You can catch him on Forbidden Knowledge TV. This gentleman has been all around the world about 20 times already, and he has researched all the ancient texts from the Bob Magama, the Enuma Elish. The different names get tongue tied, but it's a lot of ancient texts. His brother has the receipts and went and did all the research on. So without further ado, let's get into this interview that's here and check him out.
Before we do that, any thoughts, any conjectures on why we lost so much information, why there's such a disconnect from such an advanced level of awareness, advanced levels of technology to kind of where we are now? Yeah.
There's a couple of reasons. It's not just one reason. And I think the reason why people are kind of not getting the bigger pictures because everyone's mind decides to try to focus solely on one potential cause for the amnesia. Well, the amnesia comes from several reasons. The first one being global catastrophes. Okay, so there were some global natural geologic catastrophes. Like that, we know for a fact there was a great flood. Not only one, but there were several great floods. We can see it in the rock strata. We can see that, this planet has been flooded several times. I just came back from Egypt, and I went to the Valley of the Whales, and I stood next to about a 30-foot long Basilosaurus in the desert, in the middle of the desert, right? And so this is an ancient whale, okay, an ancient whale laying, and there were hundreds of them all around me, dead whales, the bones everywhere, seashells and everything else. So at one point, that desert was obviously a sea. So it's like, man, what is going on here? So we know that this happened.
Why hasn't this knowledge even been brought to us? If they got whales out there like that, why didn't they just bring this information out and let it mainstream? All this stuff is not mainstream, dude.
The second reason is in the ancient Sumerian tablets and in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ring Veda, which is specifically where they have the Battle of the 10 Kings and many other ancient texts and tablets from around the world, you discover there was some type of a global war going on. There was a big battle. It even made it into the more recent religious texts like the Quran and the Bible. They're talking about the wars of the gods fighting in the sky, the angels going against God and so forth and so on. These were real wars. In the ancient Sumerian tablets, these wars specifically talk about the fact that there was a weapon that was unleashed. And also the Mahabharata calls it the Brahmahama Astra. And this weapon created something called evil wind. Now, as this evil wind swept over the land, it said that the people's faces were turning, the skin was coming off their faces, their eyes were bleeding, their hair was falling out, and their fingernails were falling out. Wow. Sounds a lot like radiation sickness to me, right? And when you start looking for evidence of this, you look at Mohenjo-daro in the Indus Valley, Pakistan. You see that there is an area there where all the buildings have been turned to glass. These mud brick buildings have been turned to glass. the people's bodies are laying in the street right now today in 2024. The bodies are still laying in the street. Some are even holding hands. This was an incredible war that happened. The bodies, the bones that are there, there's no evidence of scavenging of the bones and the bodies. There's just bones left now. But when you take a Geiger counter, they're higher than level. The radiation is higher than background level radiation on these bodies.
Wow.
Which is why the animals never scavenged them. So we have evidence there. We have evidence in some of the deserts, like around Giza. You could pull up balls of glass out of the sand. That's 3,000 degrees temperature to turn sand into glass. So again, more evidence of potential weapons fire. When you look at the bent pyramid of Dozier, the bent pyramid looks like something impacted it and blew off a lot of the outer coating, and then just charred black remains of the pyramid strewn out about 50 yards around the pyramid itself. Nobody's ever talked about this. The evidence that there's some type of weapon or energetic charge had struck this object and blew it to pieces. Also at Puma Punku, you can see a megalithic structure blown up and the pieces strewn apart. So everywhere you look around this planet, I mean, I can just keep going. We discover that not only was there some type of war, but also you see dozens of unfinished megaliths all around the entire planet. Wow. Almost at the same time, everyone who was working on these megalithic structures and these huge stones and these huge temples and some of these pyramids that are partially completed, they all just stopped. Everybody just stopped at the same time. To me, again, more evidence of some type of major war that was going on or some type of major calamity going on at the same time. And then the third reason and final reason is, as we got through all of that, you know, and we're the survivors of that, you and I and everybody else on this planet, which makes us some of the strongest people to ever live, because we've survived all the plagues and all the disease, and we survived all these wars and disasters, and we're still here, right? And so it's amazing. But unfortunately, we as people have these rulers, these oligarchs, these elite oligarchs that rule over us and control the flow of information. Right now in the modern age, they control it through media. They control it through military. They control.
These are the powers that be, known as the powers that were now. I should say the powers that were, aka the powers that be. Yeah. Everything's falling. All their power will be falling as Hollywood is falling now.
Control it through the Vatican, who has the 5-mile underground archive. And so what begins to happen is they want to control the narrative as to what happened in the ancient past, what they want to get out and what they don't want to get out, because they're looking to weaponize as much of the ancient information as they possibly can. Most of the weaponry and most of the fighter jets and the technology we have today was just a glimpse of what they were able to scavenge from ancient text tablets and scriptures and even other artifacts that they've discovered around the world, and turn those things, those concepts and ideas into actual real machinery and weapons. And so they didn't want us to get our hands on that. And so to that, they've hidden the past from us. They've acted like there's nothing there. They don't teach about the Sumerians in school and things like that. So what happens is you've got those three things working against us. And when you have that many things working against you, it's very easy by third, fourth, fifth generation to begin to forget all the information.
Right.
That's inspired.
Really
so I just want to take a quick sec to thank all of you that are subscribed. There is that proverb that ancient, knowledge is power. And coming into, forbidden knowledge, there's almost like there's like a forbidden power. It's almost like it's not meant to be placed in front of us so that we're not allowed to reach for it.
Yeah.
Intentionally, what's the intention behind that?
Well, the intention is, you see, when you have a mass of people that you have to control and rule over, you do not want them to have a couple of things. The first thing is you don't want them to have the same level of knowledge that you have. That's the number one first priority. Because if everybody has the same level of knowledge, guess what? We're all in the same playing field. Now, why are you ruling over me? Why is your boot on my neck? We're on the same level. I don't deserve to be here. I deserve to be here with you. But see, if we're all here, who's going to do the grunt work? Who's going to mow the lawn? Who's going to clean the chimney? Who's going to work in the factories to build the private jets for the oligarchs to buy and fly on? You see? So all of a sudden, you need people to do certain things in the world. You need them in their certain specific areas. and you need a class of people at the bottom, in the middle, and at the top. at the bottom, in the middle, and at the top.
It said a while back, we don't want a nation of thinkers. We want a nation of workers. We don't want no nation of thinkers. We want nothing but a nation of workers, a nation of slaves.
The next reason is, well, there is a certain level of, I would say, security risk issue. In other words, if I know how to obtain plutonium and build a nuclear bomb, well, then that's a big problem. I mean, there are some real security risks and issues. If I know how to build a particular type of a flying device that has weapons on it, and I can now get over the walls of your city, and just because I want to, and I can destroy something, well, that is a big issue. So there are other reasons why a lot of information is also suppressed, and technologies are doled out to us at a very slow pace, while they themselves have super advanced technology. I think that they're about 300 years ahead of us right now. So there is a real reason for global security as to everyone having access to everything and all technology. I do believe in that.
Yeah, and I do believe in that also. There's another section also that Billy was also talking about that I want to bring to attention. That is the significance of the Emerald Tablets. So you want to break into this segment here to where he's kind of discussing with the Emerald Tablets.
So quick question time. I'd love to hear.
Basically, I want to make sure that everything is all set.
Okay. Wow. So being disconnected from so much, there seems to be a real calling in your awareness to these Emerald Tablets. Can you describe to us the Emerald Tablets and why they're so important? And I'll just leave that as the question.
Yeah, the Emerald Tablets is one of the greatest writings that have ever been released to mankind, in my personal opinion. Some people doubt their existence, but the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, or the singular tablet, is located at the Cambridge Library in the UK. And then the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which is the full tablets, all of the multiple tablets, they're located at the Vatican Archive in Rome. These tablets have passed through the hands of people like Sir Isaac Newton, the Queen of Sheba, Roger Bacon, and many other incredible academics over the years, over many, many years. And several translations of them. Even St. Thomas Aquina put out his own translation of the Emerald Tablets, right? So this is leading into it, getting into the Vatican. St. Thomas Aquinas was one of the last people to have his hands on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. He made his own translations of them, wrote his books about the Emerald Tablets, and then the Emerald Tablets disappeared. My presumption is into the Rome Vatican Archive at the Vatican. But these Emerald Tablets are amazing because we're talking about texts that potentially could be 36 to 40,000 years old, authored by a man named Thoth, Thoth. He calls himself in the tablets Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. He doesn't call himself a god. He never proclaimed himself to be a god, even though the people called him a god. The people deified him because when he would leave an area and not come back for a while, he was so wise and so incredible in his teachings that they figured he had to be a god. The word thought comes from the name Thoth. And then when he got to the land of Kemet, he taught chemistry and alchemy. There is one of the first places he taught chemistry and alchemy. Kemet is pre-dynastic Egypt.
Yeah, so if y'all want to know about Kemet is Africa. That's where all the knowledge came from. That's where they went and stole all our knowledge from. But yeah, the land of Kem, Africa.
He went all around the world teaching humans languages, construction techniques, and he claims to have built the Great Pyramid. He says in the Emerald Tablets, builded I the Great Pyramid, patterned after Earth's force, so that it too might remain through the ages. And it has. Khufu had nothing to do with the building of the Great Pyramid. Khufu was a pharaoh in the dynastic era who took claim to the pyramid, which is something that the pharaohs would often do. They would take claim to a temple or other monuments and put their name on it and erase the other person's name and say, oh, this is mine. They would even steal each other's graves. If they can find a nice tomb from another pharaoh, they would take the pharaoh out of there, put their name on it, and take that pharaoh's tomb too, as if they had it built for themselves. So this is a common practice. Khufu never touched or had anything to do with building a Great Pyramid. And so this thing is really, really ancient. And the evidence of this can be found all around the sands of Giza. Again, all the fossils that are laying around out there, the evidence of weapons fire and everything else that shows us that this thing has been around here for a very, very long time. But the Emerald Tablets is a very spiritual writing. It's talking about the fact that mankind is birthright is to seek the light and to be the light, not only of this world, but of the universe itself. And it's a very uplifting and enlightening text that really inspires mankind to be the best version of themselves. And that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, and that's deep too, because when you get in chance and you read it, a lot of the insights in it, it's it's way before. It's like universal stuff that has already been the laws of man that's been already there, and that the Bible just picked them up and just started using them. This is stuff that was written before the Bible, but the Bible kind of like adopted some of that stuff and then incorporated into their literature. The next part I want to bring to your attention, that I would love to bring to your attention here, is the other part dealing with the creation part of the story here. The genetic engineering of of humans. So he's going to break off into this part right here, which is very interesting also, that you need to check out.
And add our essence to it. We'll slay one of the gods with the hominid, and with the being. They call it a being. We'll slay one of the gods with the being. That means we're somehow going to take something out of the god, one of the Ijiji. We're going to take their DNA, but we're going to take their life force. We're going to mesh it with this hominid, this being, and we're going to create a worker race, which is what they did. And they did this through the Hathors coming out of the birthing chambers, which are located in Egypt. And I take people to this place every single year when I take my big tours, where they had the birthing chambers in several different places, where they were actually creating Homo sapiens at a very rapid pace. And we began to become the slave race that began to do the work for these beings. In other words, what was the work? Clearing out the Tigris and Euphrates, digging canals, helping to build the cities, and doing all the farming and animal husbandry. And we have the tablets that actually show these huge beings giving the plow to mankind. We have them showing us all these things. The Dogon tribe were interacted with another race of Anunnaki called the Nomo. That's what they call them. These people came from Sirius B. So the Anunnaki didn't just come from one place. They came from many different stars, many different planets around different stars. Right. They came from the Sirius B. Sirius B was a star that ran out of fuel, became a white dwarf. You can't even see Sirius B with the naked eye, but the Dogon tribe knew about it. They knew exactly where it was in the sky. They also knew that it was in a trinary star system and the orbital periods of the trinary star, the intricate orbit. Now, how in the world could they know this? I mean, they knew all this information. They knew the planets in our solar system, the shapes, the sizes, and the colors and the orbit patterns for every single planet in our solar system, long before we had telescopes.
Without a telescope.
And all of them, the ancient Egyptians, the Dogon tribe, which actually the Dogon tribe was one of the very first inhabitants of the land of Kemet before they got overthrown and were forced into Mali, Africa. So they had the ancient knowledge of the wisdom of the flower of life and the energetic pattern. And so did all the other ancients. Everywhere around the world, you find the flower of life. I don't care if you go to Mexico, which is former Mesoamerica, where you had the Teotihuacan civilization. And what does Teotihuacan mean? It means the city of Tahuti. Who's Tahuti? Thoth in Africa. So this man has been everywhere. In Australia, he's known as Thothamabi. In Mexico, he's known as Tahuti. He's known as Kukulkan. He's known as Viracocha. He's known as Quetzalcoatl. In the UK or the Europe, he's known as Mercury. He's known as Odin. I mean, this guy's been everywhere. Same person, going everywhere on the planet. Wow. And everywhere he goes, he brings knowledge and wisdom. He's even potentially Wang Di, the first emperor of China.
Where you've got these potentially beings, like this is hundreds of thousands of years ago. But then why Earth? What's special about Earth? Why is everyone attracted to Earth?
Yeah,
is
great
it our
question.
Water? Is it our minerals? Is it our elements? What's going on?
Yeah, really good question. So when you look at these ancient texts again, you discover that there was this war going on in space. This war appears to hail from the Pleiadian star system. And I have myself been collecting artifacts. Some of these artifacts have been on TV shows. 70% of my artifacts have the Pleiades on them, right? These are ancient artifacts. And so this Pleiadian star system is very, very powerful and intrinsic into the full story. They talk about it in the biblical text. It's talked about in the Quran. It's talked about in Sumerian tablets. It's talked about in the Egyptian lore, Australian lore, indigenous American folklore. All this stuff is bleeding back to the Pleiades, which is pretty interesting. So there was this war there. This war broke out. Now, if you're in an area of the sky, or you're orbiting a planet, orbiting a sun, and there's another weapon that can be unleashed that can destroy a planet, they had a weapon in this text that for this war that took place in space that can destroy any man on 3 worlds. It was a planetary destroyer. And they said once the weapon was unleashed, it couldn't even be returned or stopped. It couldn't be halted in any kind of way. It's deadly stuff. And one of these weapons were controlled by a tablet of destiny. And whoever had control of the tablet of destiny had control of the whole galaxy.
Wow.
It was crazy stuff going on back then. This is an ancient text.
Star Wars.
And imagine you're there on Earth, right? Let's say this happened in our solar system and Mars blew up. Well, we would be looking, how can we get off this planet? Because if a chunk of Mars hits us, we're toast. So everyone who could in that region of the sky, in that sector of the galaxy, everyone who had the ability to got in their ships and they got the hell out of there. They became space refugees. The very first account of refugees. They were looking for planets. They hopped on some planets orbiting the stars of Orion, some orbiting in the Sirius star system, some orbiting in Ursa Minor, Aldebaran, and of course, some came here to Earth. These were all breakaway civilizations. Some even landed on a planet named Nibiru that orbited a brown dwarf star, according to the Enuma Elish. So we're talking about beings that were like, we got to keep our civilization and our race alive. We got to spread out and find other places to live.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's
We're
deep.
talking about ancient technology, and I don't want to use.
That's really deep right there. See, he's getting into some more knowledge here. Excuse me. That he's breaking down on the genetic diversity, on the genetic diversity part of it. That's going to be very interesting.
Potentially beings here for 400,000, 200 to 250,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I came across somewhere in your work that Adam and Eve potentially weren't alone in the garden. And I found that extremely fascinating because I think,
Here we go.
yeah, I think this is a really important conversation. Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, the dogma that has been passed down for so many generations, the fact that they're thinking that 2 people created 8 billion people on Earth right now is where we're at, about 8 billion, 100 million, or some crazy number, right? That's a crazy number we're at. But the fact is, 2 people can't create 8 billion people. Because why? Not enough genetic diversity. And whoever doesn't believe that, I want you to go and start mating with your sister and have a baby, and then have that baby, and you have 2 babies, and have those babies grow up a little bit and mate with each other, and see what happens by the 2nd or 3rd generation. Club feet, mental disabilities, blindness, all these things happen. Why? No genetic diversity. This is why people who like breed dogs and everything, they understand they have to have a genetic pool to pull from to create these breeds of dogs and everything else. Same thing with human beings. You have to have a genetic diversity. So when you look at these tablets, you begin to realize something else really happened. First of all, Isis was trying to create the Adamu. That means first man, right? Isis. Now, what's crazy is they're trying to do this, and they're having some trouble mating these clones. And the instructions for the cloning are in the hieroglyphs in Egypt, right? So you go there to Egypt, and all of a sudden you see these hieroglyphs, and they lay out the exact cloning technique to make people, actual people like you and I. And we take people there every year to show them these incredible hieroglyphs. But the problem that they had was,
what you think that they're doing now? What you think that they're doing now on this cloning? They've got this stuff down packed. That's why you guys know they got it down packed. That's why y'all think Diddy is a clone, or some of these other people out here are clones. They just might be. They do have it down packed now. So, yeah, Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. We in for some
These
trouble.
clones in the tablets, they weren't able to reproduce. If you take a lion and a tiger, you get a ligon, right? Or a tigon. You can do them both ways. But neither one of those outcomes can actually have be fertile. They can't. One can't get pregnant, another it can't make anything pregnant, right? If it's a man or a woman, a female or a male. I'm sorry. So the problem that you have there is they can't really mate. Just like a donkey and a horse will create a mule, but the mule is sterile. Same situation. So they said, "Dan, what are we gonna do?" So she said, I have an idea. I'm gonna take the egg from one of the beings and put it in my womb and take it to term." So they take one of the hominids, they take the female, they take the egg out, they add their essence to it. This is some type of genetic modification or adding the sperm or whatever they did. Kind of like in modern terms, making a zygote in modern terms in a laboratory to insert into a woman's womb, in vitro fertilization. She puts it in her womb. She takes it to term for 10 months, not 9. And in 10 months, she gives birth to the Adamu. That means first man in her. There's a cylinder seal in the British Museum with her holding the baby up, saying, "My hands have created it." This begins the generations of Isis. The generations of Isis, the Genesis, the book of Genesis. This is where it comes from.
Right.
Now they go, okay, let's mate Adam with one of these clones.
Right.
Didn't work. They're like, damn, this didn't work. They go, okay, we go back to the drawing board. Let's make an Eve. Let's make a female version of Adam. So they do that through birth, through the birth canal, through an actual pregnancy, give birth to Eve. Now they mate Adam with Eve. And then, of course, she gets pregnant and conceives. They go, oh, we got it. So now they begin this process in the Hathors birthing houses of having these women dedicating their bodies to being surrogate mothers to give birth to all these children. And they raise these children. They put them in the Eden, the Edin, where Satan was the ruler or the king of Eden. Okay, Satan.
Which was illegal.
And in there, they had mating times. They had these people in there, and you couldn't mate out of turn. You would be punished. You had to mate with who specifically they told you to mate with. Why? Because if you don't, you can screw up the genetic diversity. So they had these mating times. They had people in there who would try to mate out of turn. They would get in trouble. And the fact that there were a lot of people on this planet is also provable in the Bible, because when Cain killed his brother, and Enlil, who's known as Yahweh in the Bible, but he's Enlil in the Sumerian tablets, he comes back and he goes, "Oh man, what'd you do? You killed him. I'm kicking you out of here." So Cain says, "Wait a minute. There's people out there will kill me." Well, what people? What people are out there? It's supposed to be Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel, and their sister. That's it. No, it wasn't anybody else. But no, he said there's people out there, multiple. Some they will kill me. These must be violent people. So God says, "No, it's okay. I'll put my mark on you, and they won't touch you because they'll know you're my boy." So he puts this mark. But the mark he put is not a mark on his face or a cut, a genetic marker. And he released him. That began the creation of the Canaanites. So yeah, this whole Garden of Eden thing had been misconstrued for hundreds of years, and people preaching dogma that Adam and Eve and original sin, and the apple that she ate was the apple of knowledge. She was given knowledge by Enlil, who's known as Yahweh, his brother Enki. His brother Enki came to the garden and started telling them that they're wise, that they're intelligent, that they're created even higher than them, that they are higher than the Anunnaki themselves, that the secrets to the universe are hidden inside of our bodies. All this can be found in the myth of Adapa. It's an amazing deciphered Sumerian cuneiform tablet that anyone can buy. You can buy it on Amazon and read it for yourself. How it talks about how great and how grand we are, that the wisdom of all knowledge has been encoded into the human body form.
Thank you.
And when they learned this information, they realized that they weren't animals, and they began to put on clothes. And then when Enlil comes back, he gets pissed off because he realized they've been enlightened in some way. And then he began to say, he's the devil, he's evil. But it really was Enlil that was the evil one, not Enki.
Right. John Charlie's brother. See, that's what I don't like about
there
that.
is, yeah, I think even just the genetic diversification conversation, it's such a low-hanging thread that we don't usually just pull on. Just the
and that's the trick of it right there. That's the trick of it right there, people. See, in that Old Testament, the Old Testament is where they had all the wars at in Deuteronomy, where Eliel was telling telling Saul to go tell Saul. No, Eliel was telling Samuel to go tell Saul to go kill all the women and children and don't leave no livestock. Right? So what Saul did is went over there and killed all the women and children and everything, and he kept the livestock, talking about he gonna sacrifice it to Samuel's God, which was Yahweh. So he comes back all joyous and everything, saying how he won the war and everything and the spoils. And Samuel says, "You didn't. God's upset with you. Yahweh is upset with you." And Saul says, "Why is he upset? I did what he told me to do. I killed all the women and children and everything." This is God telling him to kill all the women and children. I did what he told me to do. And he said, Samuel said, "No, you didn't. You didn't kill all the livestock." He says, "Well, I brought it back so I could sacrifice it to your God." Well, God's upset with you. And so Saul gets mad and calls for the king. I guess he captured the king and he kills the king. But look at this destruction. All through Deuteronomy and all that killing and stuff. That wasn't the divine creator. That was Eliel as Yahweh portraying as God. Now the divine Father that created everything is the one that Yeshua, known as Jesus, was talking about in the New Testament, the Father God. Now that's the true creator. That was the flip. And y'all think it's the same God. No, it ain't. No, it's not the same God. It's a flip. And y'all stuck in the flip. I'm so glad I'm not stuck in that damn flip no more. Okay, let's get back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we just don't question our stories, and
No.
yet they govern so much of our lives. Do you
Yeah.
think we're entering? Because I heard you, very dear friend of mine, Alex Ferrari, Next Level Soul. You were talking about us entering a golden age, but ultimately the challenge being sustaining a golden
Yeah.
age. I think that was very, very interesting. I'd love to just get your thoughts on that once again here, because I think that was, yeah, in your mind. Yeah, I'll let you answer the question.
Absolutely. Shout out to Alex Ferrari, great human being. Great human being, man.
Love
Loved it.
Alex.
Yeah. So basically, I
Next
was
Level
talking about
Soul.
the fact that we're living in this cycle, the cycle of the yugas, right? Where you go through this rise and fall of civilizations. They call it the Great Year. That's a more modern name for it, the Great Year. And through this process of going through this dark age, right, and this stone age, and coming around to the bronze age, and then moving into like a silver age and heading back to a golden age. Right now, I feel like we're in something called the Tetra Yuga, which is the very, very beginning of a silver age. We're in the very, very beginning of that. And mankind is moving in the right direction up this circle back towards a golden age. Now we're still quite a ways away from being in a golden age, but at least we're on the right side of the cycle. Now, every time I read these ancient texts, these scriptures, papyruses, cylinder scrolls, verbal handed down histories, and study this information, I see these cycles. They exist. Everyone knows about these cycles of rise and fall of civilization. Thoth talks about it in the Emerald Tablets. But nowhere has it been written that mankind has to go through this cycle, that we have to fall, that any civilization on any planet has to ever fall. And since it's not written that it has to fall, it's not a universal law that has to happen.
Right.
In my opinion, could there be a program going on, an experiment, a grand experiment? How many known civilizations throughout this universe will eventually break this cycle and reach a golden age and actually sustain it? And I believe that's the ultimate goal for humanity and mankind on this planet, is to finally stop going through this cycle they call the Great Year and actually get to a golden age and actually sustain a golden age, sustain the wisdom, sustain the knowledge, and keep it and stay in the age versus cycling back, crashing, and doing it all over again in this big loop. It's like a reincarnation. It's like a fractal of our reincarnation cycle. Can we stop it? Thoth claimed to have broken out of the reincarnation cycle. So if he can do that, and that's a fractal of the whole, as above, so below. Well, that means to me then we can stop this cycle, this fractal of this rise and fall of civilizations, and achieve a golden age and actually sustain it. I think that's the ultimate goal in this grand universal experiment, is how to actually get there and keep it. And the grand experiment could be, as I said, how many civilizations throughout the known universe will destroy themselves before they get a chance to, how many will get stuck in the cycle eternally, and how many will break the cycle and sustain it.
Wow. See, now that's deep. That's deep. But he has a whole lot of knowledge, and that's just only a snippet of it. We can get into so much of Billy Carson. He's on Forbidden Knowledge. Y'all got to check him out. Forbidden Knowledge TV, Forbidden Knowledge Network. The man is like full of knowledge. He's a walking encyclopedia. He's also teamed up with another person that's teamed up with him, who I'm kind of like up under, who I've gotten some advice from. Is Roderick Martin with Why the Big Secret, and he's also got some other big things that's going on with Strange Conversations, and now he's got one going now with Symbolism that you got to check him out, because he's another big guy. His name is Roderick Martin. Check him out. He's also connected with Billy Carson on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. Well, this is Audi Rob right here on Wide Open Woke Podcast, and I'm trying to get out here and try to get my way up to that Conscious Awards over there in Miami, and I'm gonna try to work my way there. But I got a little long way to go here. But something tells me if I can just tap into that quantum field, I can get up there with the rest of them. But it may happen sooner, it may happen later, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I've got that faith, and I've got that drive, and I got to get that message out there, because y'all got to wake the fuck up. Excuse the language, but it's true. Y'all got to wake up. Wake up. The knowledge is out there. Y'all scared to do y'all research. Y'all want to stay right there on that line. Don't go to the left. Don't go to the right. Keep straight. That's what they want y'all to do. Don't look this way. We don't want y'all to look this way. We want y'all to keep doing right what we told y'all to do. Keep reading that damn book and keep their head going that way. And y'all keep praying out there in that doggone sky. Keep praying out there in that sky. Don't look within, because if you look within, that means we're in trouble. But we're in trouble anyway. Yeah, now you are. Feel like the sky is falling on you. Powers that be. But I can't wait to see this coming next year and these next 5 or 6 months. Y'all gonna see some stuff, because Hollywood is falling and the music industry is falling too. So all that stuff that was negative, all this stuff that was considered to be first is going to be last, and everything that's last is going to be first. So everybody who has been going through life on life last leg, or you feel like you've always been struggling since the 80s, or you've been struggling and you just something just this is your time. This is your time now. If you always felt that you've been last, and you always been talked about, and you always been put down, well, your time has come. Everything is flipping now. Your time has come to rise. Your energy is coming. Your ancestors are behind you. They're cheering you on. They're sending you energy. Your spirit guides are lining up all the nice, good things that are coming your way. The universe is in your favor. Believe me, this stuff is true. This journey is nice, and I'm manifesting abundance, health, and love. And it's all true and real. Y'all get back with me. This is Audi Rob with Wide Open Woke Podcast. And a lot of love, light, and energy. Let's do this. Love you. Stay strong.